you know. But that's what we did. We made it free. And then all of a sudden, a month later, you've attracted over 100,000 new learners to the platform. It's trending. It's ranked number 1 under the education category on Google Play.
Oh,
Boom. Yeah.
so let's begin just to get to know you, né? How would you describe your life as a genre? If it was rather either a music genre or movie genre, how would you describe your life?
As a genre, as a music genre, yeah, dude, it's everything. I'd call it rock and roll. You know, so many up and downs. You just explore your truth, eh? You go with the wind. I'm very inquisitive, so yeah, I'd say rock and roll.
So, and why rock and roll specifically? Tying it back to the music genre itself.
I think rock and roll was one of those first genres where people were not afraid with going against the grain. You
Sure.
know, where people were okay with being judged, where people didn't care what people thought. You know, where people just pretty much lived their truth, did what they wanted to do, regardless of what people around them say. And honestly, it's kind of that pushing the envelope thing. You will find people that ride with you, and then you also get people that are against it. But the one thing you can't ignore is like its impact in history. So
Sure.
for me, that's how I feel about it. Like that's why I'd call it.
Which is actually a nice segue into. I want to go to your varsity career, right? Your varsity experience. So I was listening to some interviews you've done, Mr. Party Man. Hence why I'm like, great segue, Mr. Rock and Roll. But talk to me about your varsity career and ultimately how it led to you actually starting Sync.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You know, when they say in life, like certain things happen for a reason, that was my first experience of plugging everything in. But in varsity, man, I came to Joburg as a kid from a small township called Itsoseng. And honestly, I had never really been exposed to the fast, bright lights, you know. Came in here as a bit of a nerd from a township and got there. I was on campus. I was studying BCom law, and first year was pretty seamless. But then, honestly, second year hit. But second year, all of a sudden, people like you. You're sociable, and one of the first thing that hit me was the whole component of that part of your life has nothing to do with your academic ability. It's everything about the balance with the social decisions that you make and prioritization. And because I had never really exercised that, and school didn't prepare me for that because I just studied and passed, I struggled. I struggled to the point where I eventually dropped out in my third year. And it's because the social and party life pretty much took over, It was a tough learning lesson, but also it set the foundation for me actually looking at life the way that I do. Because when I eventually started working, when I was in a problem-solving environment in the working space, I started making reflection a habit, which is something I'd encourage a lot of people to do. And I just wanted to suss out where did things go wrong, because at that point in time, I was still quite regretful of a couple of things that had happened in my life. And honestly, being a perfectionist to a degree at that time, I wasn't happy with the fact that I didn't get a degree in record time. That was a blemish that I could never, erase in my life story. So I saw that one of the reasons was because it's not always easy to get people that connect with you immediately, that resonate. And that's how initially I conceptualized Sync. Sync, I was like, what if there was a platform that I could just go into and then pick up around me people that are interested in maths, physics, chess, and cricket. Maybe, just maybe, I would have just stuck with my tribe and not ended up losing myself for a couple of years. But retrospectively looking at it, I don't regret it. Number one, I appreciate the friendships I have on the back of that. Number two, I wouldn't be where I am without that journey. So maybe I experienced it to actually come up with a solve for it.
So now, okay, so now you've obviously were reflecting and you're thinking about sync in terms of, wouldn't it be great to have like an app where you find like-minded individuals that like chess and cricket, as you're saying, right? So I'm just trying to understand. So you have this idea, then what? You know, like, are you gonna speaking to your friend and you pitching the idea to them? What are the next steps after that?
Trial and error. So the first thing I did was obviously, like you saying, pitch it to my friends. I remember I had it on a notebook, which is somewhere in my mess there, and I had drawn out a mind map, and at that time I called it Youth Zone,
Okay.
and it was just a mind map showing how everything would work. And one of my good friends now saw it, and he was like, "Flip, this is passion." We tried to explore it, but reality is that you had a bunch of people from a finance background study BCom this and that, trying to solve for this and create this. So we did scope it out, and in fact, I think it was Komoto, my friend, that even came up with the whole concept of naming it sync, because synchronize, right? He's got like one of these bursts, very creative, and adapted that. A lot of work was done, but in all honesty, we were all growing up. We were studying. I was feathering. I was actually doing the investment foundations with CFA Institute, I think. A lot was happening, so it fell by the wayside, right?
Sure.
But I still had that notebook. Very important. I still had that notebook. So that paused, right?
Yeah.
And then we went to One Young World. So One Young World, obviously, you and I were on a flight together. We spoke about life. I think I did touch on my passion about education. But for me, what was important about that experience was that when we were at One Young World, remember, those 4 days while we were there, you are exposed to a group of 18 to 35-year-olds from all over the world, right? Doing so many incredible things, right? And it made me reflect a lot. So I asked myself, I said, like, Cage, are you doing enough? Are you doing enough? I was there obviously because I was doing some strong charitable work, but I was thinking about impact. In fact, one of the triggers I remember very well, it was the first breakout session at IBM. IBM head office in Ottawa. And while we were there, one of the problems that they wanted to solve behind design thinking while we were in the breakout session, they were saying the Canadian ministry was worried about how you keep young people interested in education and engagement. And while we were breaking that down at the breakout session, I just said, wait, I have a solution for this. So me being me, I didn't disclose it to the whole group there. I just kept in mind. I said, but already that was recorded when we came back, right? In fact, the first thing I did, it said, what are you going to do? Remember that part, that wall where we write sticky notes, putting down. I actually went and documented it there. I said, I am going to launch a positive energy field, a positive digital energy field that all like-minded young minds can access each other on. Took that, stuck that sticky note there. And when we came back to South Africa, I was reinvigorated, but so I explored, did my research. Obviously, everyone is carrying on with their lives amongst my peers, and I'm not even trying to raise that. We've moved on, right? I'm pushing, and I met my childhood friend who was doing very well in InfoSec. And we met while we were at home, and we were just reflecting about the township, how everything has become disappointing. And again, the sync conversation came up. And I realized that he was strong in InfoSec, which is important when you're dealing with minors. And I said, dude, Dave, how about this? And he said, let's explore it. So we started working together, officially registered sync group, and we were exploring a couple of things, brought in 2 or 3 different developers before I got to the third guy that gave us a prototype. In fact, no, that ended up helping us launch, right? I had 3 disappointments. So this is another story, dude. When you don't know where to go, you will get disappointments, you will lose money. I paid my school fees. I can safely say that, so I lost money, but eventually what we did is that just to get a prototype before launching, I went on Fiverr. I had a wireframe, put down a wireframe, what the user journey is supposed to be like. And then, what triggered the Fiverr thing was I was watching a video by Chinedu Echeruo, the founder of Hopstop.
Okay.
That's how Hopstop was built. He found someone through Elance, which was similar to Fiverr, and his developer was in Russia. So I was like, I can do that. I found someone in India who built a prototype for me. And once we had that, you're able to show people how things work, ask for changes. And we brought someone in who was from a technical background, took all the key store files, and we had something that we could deploy on Android.
Oh wow! So there's two things I just want to talk around. Firstly, you're speaking, I mean, around the research, because I know your vision for Sync was to connect like-minded individuals to truly like unlock collaboration. You know.
Yeah.
Obviously, to have the belief that the South African young minds need to have access to each other, right? My question just around when you're researching that, did no platforms exist to solve that need, or even having adjacent platforms, so similar to maybe Facebook groups, you know, or to the study groups that, hey guys, I like this and that, let's meet up, for example?
It was too fragmented, number one. So the thing is that platforms that exist, they aren't established with that intention. I feel like in a platform-based world, right, the strategic objective is important. Yes, people may end up finding a way to use it for that connecting, but if it's not its strategic imperative, what ends up happening is that most of the people want to use it for that. So that means your intent needs to be very high to connect with like-minded. Whereas, for example, if you go to Sync, you know exactly what you're going to do there. You know, and for me, it's especially because platforms were popping up everywhere. The intent is important. You know, if you know that I'm going there to sync with people like me, it means that when I log on, there's a specific deliverable or outcome I'm trying to look for. And for me, that was very important. I didn't see that in the market, something that was specifically built for that.
100%. Okay, fair enough. And now coming on to the MVP, I mean, you spoke about you had two developers and then a third developer because they built a wireframe. You're disappointed. Third developer, Fiverr, India, boom, let's go. You know, just on that, when you're researching, you know, did you do some benchmarking to know that you're not paying too much or you're paying too little, like, or you just like, screw it, I'll pay whatever?
Screw it, I'll be honest. And life works in a funny way because while I'm doing all this research, fortunately, I'm also working, right? And you're doing well at work, you know. I think I remember when I got the prototype, it was around about bonus season, so it wasn't bad. I was reckless in the right kind of way. But it was that. I'll be honest with you. I didn't do any research. I just went, especially the Fiverr part. The price that guy quoted me was a fraction of what I had already lost paying deposits for people that didn't deliver. So for me, it was like, I need something to show to people, because one of the things that also triggered it, I mean, I had a conversation, you know, with the CEO of the company I was working at, like I still work at now. I'm an investor. SK Stephen Kossoff was the CEO at that time. I had a conversation with him, and it's something. And the moment I spoke about the platform, he said, "Where is it?" And I'm talking about a concept.
Yeah.
You know, he said,
"Where is it? Let me see it. Let me
I
hold
want to
it."
see it on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I realized, you know what? You can talk, because people, especially people in places, decision makers, they see so many PowerPoint decks, but there comes a point. And I said, okay, skin in the game. I need to get a prototype, and it takes what it takes.
And are you comfortable sharing? Well, give me a ballpark figure, so at least to anyone who's going to listen to this and decides to go the Fiverr route, in terms of how much should they be looking to pay? Obviously, it will depend on what type of app and it's different complexities, but so they're not ripped off, for example, you know?
Again, it depends, right? But prototyping, I'm assuming, like, no one builds for iOS upfront. Please don't, because it's expensive. You know, so you want something as generic as possible. Do wireframes, go on Fiverr for Android or even Huawei App Gallery now that they have their own option. But the prototype itself, not like key store files, final files, you should be able to get a proof of concept not to cost you more than 20,000.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You know, which is way lower than what established software development companies were charging in this country.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you mentioned something which was actually my next question around in one of your interviews, which was very interesting for me, that develop an MVP on Android versus iOS, all right? Why is that? And why did you develop the MVP for Android, for Sync?
It's two things: understanding the market, right? Reality is, because of the learners, the people I was trying to target, I was thinking of myself, Yana, right? The average township kid. You won't afford an Apple device.
Sure.
It's expensive. You know, so number one, also be cognizant of the socioeconomic landscape of where you are. We are in South Africa. Most people, I mean, Samsung had blown up. It's Samsung everywhere, you know. So for me, I said, this is where I would want to test it, you know, and also it's cheaper. For example, an Android license, Google Play, you pay once off, right? And then you get a console account. Apple, you have to pay an annual fee, dude. What?
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's like subscription, like
Yeah,
annually
it's a
you will.
subscription. An annual fee, you have to, or your app is being pulled, you know. One. Number two, which is good, you know, once you're ready to go to scale up, is that Apple is very intense on the nitty-gritty. Like, very intense. They find, like, before your app is published on an iOS platform, like, they check everything, right? I'm not, that time, I just want.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, you know, so let's start there. And because of those complexities, right, it means you need a more skilled developer who will cost you more. And people can even do these exercises. People that do want something specific to Apple, right? The thing is that the nice part about Fiverr is that you don't pay without seeing the price. You can do those exercises. And I would employ anyone while there to do an average exercise of checking the cost differences behind getting an app for Android and for iOS. You'll be surprised by like the gulf in the, you know, price difference. It's quite something.
No, also thanks for sharing that as well. I think it can help a lot of people that are looking to actually launch an app. So now talk to me about launch day, right? So you've developed this prototype. It's the MVP. You love it obviously because it's your own product, you know. So number one, what did you do to market it? Do you have testers, you know, like is it your friends? Just talk me through that. And what is the selling story to individuals to actually sign up? Because did you beg and did you beg them, please try my app, you know? But yeah, chat to me about that.
You know, I was so invested in the development journey, the back and forth, that I didn't give the marketing effort the attention that it needed. One, that was the first mistake. Number two, though, with every app store, you actually can deploy the final files, but before publishing, you can push to a test group. So what I did is that I asked my peers with Android devices and Gmail addresses, because you need to have that. They've got a way of, you know, locking people in. So so I asked people, I got a subset and pushed play to them. Between them testing and me launching, there was 2 weeks.
Okay.
And those 2 weeks was just literally to get feedback. Bugs, what do they think? You know, and after I got all of that, but in those 2 weeks, I would just post. Honestly, it was purely organic on my social posts. I wasn't advertising, because also, although I liked it, I was nervous. You know, mentally, I wasn't at the point where I had processed, what if people do not like it?
Yeah.
So, you know, like when you wanted to blow up, but again, you're unsure that you're ready for what it could be. So I just launched it organically, and yeah, people shared, those that could. And
what was the feedback? And why I asked this question, right, is, I mean, if you're sharing with your friends, And I remember a book I'd recommend to people is The Mom Test. People generally want to be nice to you. They won't really give you the hard truth to say, my man, this app really sucks. But because you're my friend and I know you invested in this, yeah, it's good. But if it would launch in the App Store, I'm not going to really download it. For example, so what is their feedback? And how did you distill if it's quality feedback or you just being nice to me?
Great question, because here's how it worked, right? Number one, again, I'm grateful for the kind of friends that I do have. Like, a subset of my friends are frank. They will tell you, so I did get that blunt feedback.
Sure.
But then also what it did is that feedback, it depends also how you take it, right? For me, the feedback, almost every negative feedback, it wasn't this thing sucks. It was, why isn't this there? Why? So you need to listen. And I guess it even segues easily into our next part, is that everything that everyone was asking, especially the learners, because there's your friends, right? But my friends already have lives, they're grown. It's not really solving for them. And then there are the learners, the people that you want, of whom after a week or so, when I was comfortable, I did targeting through Facebook and I pushed it, put budget behind it, and downloads did spike. But the feedback that was coming from them, everything that they were asking for, educated my next move from a business perspective. So I listened to the market.
No, that's really helpful. And you speak about now, obviously you targeted through Facebook, right? What do you still remember your messaging? Like, what was the hook to get them
Yeah,
to click?
The hook was doing good is cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Download the, and then what is it? Download the app.
Yeah, download, sync, along those lines. Yeah, but I mean, my lifelong journey, and I don't know if I've achieved it yet, and I'm achieving it, but I genuinely wanted to be cool, to be a nerd. One of the reasons I ended up in the negative zone I was in at some point in my life was because I felt like it wasn't enough being myself. I needed to try hard for people to like me, to be a social pleaser. Dude, I just like what I like. I like spaceship Lego. I like, just, and I want people to be happy with being that without, and that's why for me doing good is cool. And actually, I did get a lot of nerds on the platform, which was fun. And yeah, it worked. It did get decent downloads. I'll say that.
Are you happy to take me through like the first 6 to 12 months? Like, how was the growth in terms of downloads? How many people were actually
first month stagnant. June exams came, because I think I launched around May, so I remember.
Okay.
June exams came, and then I saw a spike. And then the moment I saw the spike, I just upped the budget on the Facebook campaign.
Okay.
Then it spiked. And then I think I had my Radio 702 interview.
Yes.
Edit that injected some energy there. And by the end of that year, I had attracted about 6,000, 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
My man, in the South African context, that is actually very good, I mean, if you look at the News 24 app, which is, when I was looking at the data, one of the most, if not the most popular app, downloaded on Android, we're looking at hundreds of thousands, so I think like 300,000 or so. But my man, those numbers are good, especially for an education app. Like, let me rather say that, it's not entertainment. Yeah, so congrats on that, by the way. Damn.
Thank you. It was a learning experience. The thing is that everything I learned there, there are a couple of things, blind spots. I missed the mark because there were times where it was peaking, where I could have had a marketing campaign. I could have, but hindsight, but for me, I won't lie, the anxiety of how is this thing going to turn out, how people are going to accept it. And also, in all honesty, I wasn't completely happy with the interface.
Okay.
It was out there because sometimes the only thing that can prepare you for going to market is going to market, right?
Yeah.
but I was still thinking there's a lot of design elements that need improvement, but the budget was still tight. So
sure. And then just the usage, right? So I mean, you have a couple of thousand of users. Were they using the app for what it was intended to, or did you see other things like, okay, maybe this is interesting, you know?
that's where I actually saw my missing link and how I ended up on the Matric Live journey. Because like people, it was like learners got there, they met each other, and then what? And it's weird because for me, I assumed that everyone is like me. Like you meet somebody or you connect with somebody and you already know what to do next.
Yeah, yeah.
But learners aren't like that. And also, maybe it was easy for me to assume that because I've grown up and I've gone through all of these things, and I assume people will know what's next.
Sure.
You know, so the call to action wasn't clear enough from a platform and engagement perspective. So learners will go there, connect with each other, the ones that need to. Like you find people that like cricket and then they share some stuff, learners or trials there. What next? Sharp, there are trials in my township. Okay, learn. Okay, this is happening when and when. Like, so it became like a community thing, but there was never the thing of what makes me come back. Or never mind come back, what keeps me here?
Your retention.
That was the gap.
And just before going to Matric Live, which was going to be now, I mean, segueing into that, what was your business model at the time? You know, I'm assuming you, as much as you're there, your main mission is to help students, you know?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you wanted to make money unless you, or, so what was the business model at the time for Sync?
The business model that time was run a freemium model for a year, get as much engagement as possible, then try and monetize that. So from a marketing perspective.
Sure. Okay.
That was the easiest one for me. Like that was the one that made the most sense, because what was important for me is segmentation. You get people that are academically strong, and then yes, there are those rare people that can transcend the both, and then you get those people that are strong in arts and culture and recreation. And the world tends to make you feel like the only outlet or what makes sense from school perspective is the conventional academic side. But because I was able to see the hobbies that learners choose, what they say they like, what they share, you almost even able to create a subset of artistic learners, athletic learners, academic learners, and stuff like that. For me, I feel like that's the kind of intelligence that the education system needs, because you need to concentrate on people's strengths more than weaknesses.
No, of course. So now, tell me, how did you go about, I know you have a co-founder, right, in Matric Live, you've answered the question in terms of the gap in Sync. You said, okay, now what, but talk me through the journey of, co-founding Matric Live, and what research was done.
Beautiful story. I'm not even going to try and take the credit for it.
Okay.
So this is Sync. It's gotten its own traction.
Sure.
Here's Matric Live. It's gotten its traction. Has about 5,000 more users than Sync at that time, and a common user on LinkedIn. There was a time I had posted about Sync, and then there was a time when Lesego had posted about Matric Live. So we were almost kind of trending at the same time for education platforms, and like the same person liked the posts, commented on both similarly, and then I saw it. So when I saw it, and I was like, flip, this is what happens after. And then also the design was just so cool. Right? The interface, and I said, this is what I need. But also it's
I love how you're doing your hands like this.
But also it's not easy for learners to just go and say, I'm going there to learn. And I said, I've got the social and gamified solution that Matric Live needs. So on the back of that, I invited Lesego for lunch. I invited him for lunch just to meet, right? At that time, that wasn't even the intention, because also there's a chemistry thing you need to understand. You don't just, you know, I invited him for lunch at work, 100 Crayston. We got there, we had lunch, and we had a great chat. Had lunch, and we just hit it off, because everything was pointing out saying Matric Live needs. I was like, but yeah, and everything I was saying just made sense.
And what were those? First of all, sorry, before I even get there. So what does, at the time, right? What did Matric Live do?
At that time, number one, Matric Live only had grade 12, right? Subjects, and it was a small subset of subjects. And it was straightforward. You go there, you get content integrated into an interface. You study, you do a quiz after each chapter, and you're done.
Oh, okay.
It was straightforward, but very efficient, because it consolidated a lot of sources into one platform. It made sense. And the best part about Matric Live, it's such a beautiful story in the sense that Lesego himself is a special kid. In fact, he's a young man. He's 22. Let me stop calling him. Lesego is special in the sense that even him, this was someone who had no formal software development training, right? Naughty kid, breaks everything. Mom tries to rein him in, gets him a laptop in grade 10. He Googles how to create games. Learns code that way. Starts deploying indie games just on an indie site.
Wow.
Games. So he was just creating games, learning. And when he finished Matric, there was a time he wasn't sure what's next. Then there was this gap of what's next. And he just said, what if I had a platform what if I created a platform that I wished I had in Matric? So the best part about him is that he kind of, because he was so fresh out of high school, he understood what he needed. We out of there for over 10 years, dude.
Not we, you.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking, my man. Yeah, I hear you.
So I'm like, and he understood. And when I looked at that and I'm sussing everything out, and I said, the problem about life is that we separate learning.
Yeah.
Learning is actually like social, like you engage. Learners learn from each other. And during these conversations, and I said, actually, there's something powerful here, but we need to figure it out.
Yeah.
What the complete product, how do you go about it? But it was just such an interesting serendipitous time, because this was pretty much end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Yeah, and one of my questions now, when you guys met and obviously having this awesome lunch, and we taking over education, right? But I mean, you're also identifying what's missing in Sync, what's missing in Matric Live. What was the main things that were missing? Well, from your side, I think I understand it was now what? What was missing for Matric Live?
The social gamified component. It was like it's you basically sending a learner into a learning room alone. There's nothing exciting about that.
No, okay. No, fair enough.
Unless you really want to learn.
Yeah, no, that's true. Enrolling in that. And now now what does Matric Live do? I mean, I've gone through it, but I mean, for the listeners out there, because your site is wonderful. It's the app as well, like my man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So Matric Live, we now covered grade 10 to 12.
Sure.
CAPS curriculum, right? But what we've done is that we've summarized pretty much learning content that's in the curriculum, summarized point format, not too content heavy. We have focused so much on design and interface. So it's actually a very cool platform to be on. Design is important to learners, look and feel. And what happens is that it's a responsive, dynamic app where learners have it available on Android, Huawei App Gallery, and iOS. And what they do is that you learn every chapter that you cover, or every section, you actually earn loyalty points, because I do come from a loyalty program kind of background as well. So that's where the gamified component came in. You get to earn points and integrate the loyalty program. There's a live leaderboard where learners can see which learner is doing. You can look at it nationally, and also per your school, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
So learners are there engaging, and also the assessment side of it, you've got per subject where you can do an assessment. You've got a personalized assessment perspective where it pays attention to the parts you're struggling with, and then it keeps on generating quizzes for you based on that. We also have a live exam simulator where it looks and feels like a live exam, has a timer, gives you a field to even free type everything that you're trying to answer, submit, and our AI will pick up how close you are to the answer and give you an analyzed report to that. Over and above that, again, the gamified part, we've integrated a quiz or challenge where learners can actually take each other on quizzes. So I can say I'm challenging you on a times table, and then we just go at it in a timer, best out of 5. And the best part about that is that you then able to share the outcome of it onto your socials.
Oh, well. And has that proved to be sticky? Users really actually into it, because it's a great feature. Yeah, just tell me about that.
Here's the best part, right? So far, when we pay attention to the analytics,
Yeah.
because learners have more than enough learning content. Like they
Yes,
get
that's true.
learning content from school, they can get it from YouTube. Learners are spending more time on the quizzes and assessments because you're testing your aptitude, right? But also, I think that's where you learn, right? It wasn't always our intention, but I think this is our strength. And it almost now affirms Lesego's background of building e-games on an indie site in grade 10.
Yeah.
You
It's funny how it all just comes together with the universe. Yeah.
But they engage with that and they're having fun. But what you don't realize is that in order to make sure that you're beating your mate, you need to improve your knowledge. So you are, in essence, encouraging learning, but making it fun, which has always been our ideal. Learning should be fun and it should be cool. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
100%. Just going on to, again, your business model, I'm assuming now that it's still the same thoughts in terms of business model, because I know learners right now, it's for free for learners whilst they're writing exams, right? I'm assuming the business model is marketing and using it as an ad platform.
So the beautiful part, we've adapted quite a lot.
Okay.
Maybe let me give you the journey since last year, Feb.
Oh yeah, please.
Right. February, the paperwork is done. We've joined forces. We're working Matric live. We are sitting on 9,000 learners.
Wow.
Right. Lockdown happens. Right. Now, at that point when it happened, this was still Lesego's sole decision, for example, right? The app had a subscription fee, annual fee, once off, $100. Lockdown happens, and it's just a discussion between two guys from the township who say, let's make it free. That time we thought lockdown was 6 weeks, man.
Yeah, I remember that time.
We say, let's make it free because kids share textbooks in the townships.
Sure.
That's what we did. Between March the 26th, when lockdown happened, and end of April, we had 110,000 new downloads. So we're sitting on 120,000 new downloads.
Man, just pause. How does that feel? Like, from we're in the hundreds of thousands now. Okay.
I'd love to position it as a genius move. Sometimes life rewards you in a different way, right?
Yeah.
This was pure goodwill. We were like, let's forego this income, right? Because we understood the problem. And there was no marketing, by the way. We just said, boom, we're making it free. The only thing I did was share it in the One Young World community. And it went, but that's what we did. We made it free. And then all of a sudden, a month later, you've attracted over 100,000 new learners to the platform. It's trending. It's ranked number 1 under the education category on Google Play.
Oh, wow.
Boom.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? And it's not stopping. It's growing at that time, it's growing at an average of 17,000 new downloads every week.
Well,
what's happening?
Yeah.
And what we realized was that, okay, we then decided, let's keep it free for, indefinitely, right? we did struggle to attract revenue because that time again, people didn't know. Like we getting this traction, but it's lockdown. Companies are adjusting their budgets to working from home. It's tough to knock down doors. Now, MTN happens, right? When MTN happened, when we for the MTN App of the Year Awards, we won a Breakthrough Solution of the Year Award. That week, going into it, we had over 500,000 users on the app. We were sitting on like 520,000 users. And when we won the Breakthrough Solution, now the traction comes, the media attention, the discussions. And that's how we were able to attract funding from the likes of Banking Association of South Africa, and some seed funders start saying, okay, what's happening here? Unfortunately,
like, hello.
you have to cut your teeth before, you know.
Yeah.
But we got that, and the growth just kept coming. Sure. Right? It just kept coming. But then we realized, oh, now we need to scale because this all can't keep deving alone. You know, we need to professionalize the content side because we had just digitized study notes. Yeah. To be honest. You know, and yeah, it came with its own growth pains because we both didn't anticipate that kind of growth and attention.
And what were whilst we're here, I mean, what were some of the pains, the growth pains that you speak of?
You get to realize, number one, you need to make sure that your content is licensed, dude. You know,
you can't be pandering and hustling now. Now you're in the spotlight, yeah.
Now you're in the spotlight, right?
Yeah. It's like, oh man, these notes look very familiar. Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then you also realize that because there's more attention, there's more scrutiny. You know, so the things that were slightly wrong in the last time in a small subset, they become more heightened. And with the attention, now you get really, really, really analytical people. And also competitions look at you, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, they try to suss out what's working, what isn't. And for us, it was so important that we managed to get almost like a pair of seed funders that were not just interested in putting money in, but interested in our development. And they told us upfront that we're investing in this combo. You and Lesotho like work well together more than this idea. We're investing in you. And they were able, they are seasoned business professionals. So they were able to help us from a mentorship perspective, from a strategizing perspective. Fine comb that, look at that. What is next? You know, what must you focus on? How can you? We didn't have it completely right, you know. And I'll be honest, we're learning as we go, even now.
Yeah.
You know, like it's to say what we lean on, and then you also get to note what you're strong in, what you're not strong in, and maybe just maybe you need to then hire someone. You know, like, dude, you're a business now, like, you know, so. Dude, it's been amazing, but now the model is on. We've brought back the premium, but it's standard. Like 70% of the content is available free, and then to break through the remaining 30%, you have to pay an annual fee. Number one. Number two, though, like the heightened analytical reports and assessment side, it needs payment. But the learners on the free side still get access to that up to a limited quota. Sure. You know, so we've got that, and fortunately, through the work we've done, we've attracted partners. Yeah. You know, we've attracted partners where you've got people creating content, you know, making sure that it's endorsed by specific partners, and then they want to distribute it through us, because this is where you retrospectively realize your strength. Because this is when we saw we're actually not a content business. We are a tech business. Our UX is people come. So businesses are now willing to create content and distribute it through us. So a specific business will say, we want Matric content to be distributed through you guys, and then they will pay for the dev work and integration, knowing very well that if it's on our platform, learners will engage with it.
It's almost similar. It's almost, you could find yourself actually becoming like a Udemy or a Skillshare, for example, right? Where I'm creating courses or a Teachable on your platform, you know, especially targeted at high school learners. Who knows? Maybe even graduates in the future. Speaking of partners as well, the Department of Education. This is public news, right? before I reveal.
I
Okay.
mean, we are on their ads.
Oh yes. Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So, my man, that is quite a win, you know. And I know you always spoke about this. Like once you have at least government involved, it can take you to new heights. I mean, having that backing is also just take me through how you actually landed them, just briefly, and then what is their role exactly in this?
Perfect. Again, it comes down. There's a statement I always came across where it said investors mustn't only give you money, they must buy you time. Right? So through our investors, we were able to talk with somebody that actually started a school. And when this person saw what we had built, they put us in touch with the National Education Collaboration Trust, the NECT, and we showed them what we had. And they were quite impressed, Obviously, it was the fact that they've got their own content. They are teaching professionals. So they've got faith in their content, what they have. The bridge they've been trying to fill is engagement. How do you make sure that learners are learning, are consuming this content? So they do have this Matric program, right? And it has TV channels, it's a YouTube channel and all of that. But it's very tough to track engagement on that. Now, on Matric Live, you've got an assessment piece, like I told you, that can give you comprehensive reports about how learners are doing in what aspect, and also the learner's background. So how we are involved with Matric, that initiative of the NECT and DBE, is that we are the digital distribution partner as far as the assessments are concerned. So it's to say learners can consume and do everything, but when they want to test themselves and how well they're doing, they use our platform, right? And from there onwards, you're not giving any personal info, but you are able to track like what subjects are the problem points, what topics are the problem points, what regions, what schools, what provinces, and because of the amount of engagement we get, you can only imagine that through this, we believe with the government, or for the government, we can get to the point where for the first time in a long time, or maybe in history, that they actually have proactive data-informed insights going into final exams rather than be hoping that people will pass.
Yeah. You almost become like, in the future, it could become this big data hub, which they didn't have before, in terms of, okay, this is interesting insight. Where are the problem areas? Let's tackle that,
You can't just blanket up. No.
Yes,
you know what the problem areas are.
My man, this is very interesting to me. I do have a couple more questions around this before we get to personal, and I'm also just wary of your time because you have learners to go and teach. So I don't want to hold that back. But just your general view, maybe, you've been building this successful app, right? Your general view and on challenges of building an app, because you can do a website. There's many different ways you can build a business. But my question is around staying relevant, because if I'm on my phone, I have an app, and I've seen some of the stats where there's huge downloads and then there's a huge drop off, like after 10 days, and the reality is that you're competing with other enticing apps. You have your Netflix there, you have your Facebook, Instagram, so just talk to me around that, the challenge of building apps. Have you seen that in Matric Live where the active usage, right, falls down, for example? Chat to me through that.
Does fluctuate. And the thing is, you need to understand what kind of a business you are and what you're solving for, right? For me, if the active usage of Matric Live is down in December, I understand which learner is trying to study. It's exams at hand. January prior to schools opening, it will be down. The first month of schools reopening, it will be down. What I pay attention to is how is the engagement rate? And that's why you need access even to the academic calendar. We see the high engagement during semester tests, during exams. It means that you are the go-to person. That's what we monitor. So for us, it's to say it wasn't always our intention, but we've realized that we may not be the preferred as far as the consumption of the learning content, but to understand we are. So we are a complementary platform. And once you identify which piece of the puzzle you fit in, harness that rather than trying to be everything too early. Maybe, just maybe, we will go back to polishing this, but harness what people enjoy, because it's what keeps them coming back.
And how can I ask this question? Because, I mean, I don't want you to reveal too much information, but what would you say is an average as a benchmark for an engagement rate for an education platform? Just, I mean, your general views. Always, I know it can differ, but yeah, I don't.
I wouldn't know, but like when we look at it, when we report on like active usage, we look at people logging on 4 times a day.
Okay. Oh, well. Geez. Yeah, no, that's quite a high engagement, you
You
know?
know, and that's just us. And I'll be honest, I have not benchmarked it against anything else. It's just
Fair
our own
enough.
standards.
Awesome. Just a question when I was thinking about this app, right? Given that you're targeting students across the country with different backgrounds, different LSMs, maybe middle class, even lower class, township, rural areas, for example, being an app, and you mentioned this earlier, iOS can't afford an iPhone. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Um, do you not risk alienating the ones that actually cannot afford a smartphone, like, and what's your solution to this? Is there a feature phone, or is there, I know, I mean, I went to the websites, but what's your solution to that, to include and make it more inclusive?
It is still a risk. What we are trying to do, right, is that we know we can address it for the core of the market. A lot of kids still do have smartphones.
Sure.
Unfortunately, there are ones that don't have.
Mm.
And we are hoping that by virtue of expanding and showing what we can do, we can get to a point where we can almost invigorate corporate South Africa to be able to get people devices that can give them access to an app. It doesn't even have to be a phone. Like there are tablets that give you purely iOS,
Yeah.
Huawei, and iOS apps.
Mm.
We are available on that. Reality is, if you're going to wait for the environment to be perfect for everyone, you're not going to deliver anything.
Yeah.
So we are on this, carrying on as we're going, hoping that people will see the efforts and maybe hop on and do what they can to expand the reach and be more inclusive. But my eye is still on those people that are underserved.
100%. My second to last question on Matric Live. Before I wanted to steal a question just personally for you, but what is the vision now for Matric Live? What's, where are we going with this?
I want us to run the biggest learning platform on the continent. That is for me, Africa is the youngest continent in the world.
Yeah.
If you look at the head count compared to schools and geographic location across the continent, we are not going to bridge the learning gap efficiently if we're just going to rely on brick and mortar. You need smart options.
KG, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this, man. Like I've strapped on my seatbelt. I'm ready. I'm ready to see you guys grow. I'm rooting for you. I don't have kids yet, but whenever I do, definitely they will use it. Thanks for sharing that journey on Matric Live. I mean, as I've said, I'm respectful of your time, and I just had some couple of personal questions for you. Quick one before I get into my favorite part of like the show. Something interesting you mentioned about working in corporate and starting a business. You claim that they're not mutually exclusive. Talk to me about that, because you're very passionate as well about that, to say, nah, guys, that's actually bullshit. You can do it. So talk to me about that.
The kind of institution you're in matters. And that's why I've been able to openly mention both the companies I've worked for. There's nothing to hide. I've been fortunate enough to have time. Like I've got 10 years working experience, like half and half in two very entrepreneurial businesses, and entrepreneurial businesses get to understand that for as long as you deliver, people shouldn't expect you not to have interest outside, and you need to develop the world. And reality is that these are symbiotic relationships. I look at now, right? The kind of value I'm able to add to my employer now, I'm of the belief is better than what I was able to deliver 3 years ago, simply because of my understanding of strategy, right? In business, also sitting on the front end. Sometimes it gets weird, right? I have to put on a COO's hat, talking to an executive team of a big listed company, and then after that, go back into my virtual room and be the digital brand manager, talking, to the person I report to.
Yeah.
But that kind of range, that kind of diversity, it actually improves you. And I've seen that my relationships on both fronts, like me doing what I do the way I do it, it has helped improve the work I'm able to deliver for my employer and the kind of skills and expertise I can add to my tech startup. So to me, they feed each other. Like, yes, they will get to a point maybe that where running, handling both is unsustainable. But for now, it feeds into each other so much. And I guess it comes down to the kind of employer you have, because they embrace it. They love it. They've even featured me on an internal article.
Oh wow. Look at you.
But
Yeah.
it shows, when you have an employer like that, I will give them my all as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, thanks for that. We get into the favorite part of my section, where we get very personal. Just I call it going under the hood. Getting to know who KG is and what's ticking. In that brain of yours. So it's around 8-9 questions, quick fire. But yeah, please just feel free, feel open. I'm not going to ask you deep questions like what is your deepest fear. So let me begin actually. So in the last 10 years, have any of your beliefs on business changed,
A lot.
And if yes, give me maybe the top 3 that have changed.
Big business is bad.
So now you're saying big business is good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
2,
one.
it's not a popular one and it's linked to the first one, but I'm actually now a thoroughbred capitalist.
Yeah.
3, business integrated with education is what will get us out of this. I used to think the two are separated, they are one and the same.
Okay. I wanted to focus on the whole big business, but it's fine. Topic for another day. Second question? What's the one thing you believe that is holding you back from reaching the next level?
I tend to overprocess things.
So simplifying it, making a decision quicker, maybe?
Decisiveness, and sometimes self-assurance. I'm confident, but sometimes you tend to just overprocess and think. I'm very analytical. So sometimes you just need to shoot, but
analysis paralysis, man. Okay, fair enough. What does money really mean to you?
A means to an end.
That's it.
That's it. Reality is, money is important in the South African aspect of things, because we come from such a background of deprivation. I see money as a means to actually, for me personally, apart from systems and values, for me, liberating my entire bloodline. Like my father's side of the family, everyone there, they've sacrificed and lost so much due to the injustices of the past. And sometimes when I'm home and I look at my cousins and I look at some people that I grew up with, or some people that are my blood, and I understand how smart they are, and maybe just their limitations is just because they didn't get access to the opportunities that I have. I see a responsibility to open it up and actually liberate all of them, to give them access to some of the opportunities that I have. And unfortunately / fortunately, it will need money to do it. So it's a means to an end.
No, okay, I love that. Getting a bit more personal now. You spoke about your parents And I know even at one stage you were afraid to go back home, you know. But what's the best lesson your mother or father has taught you?
It's I have one from each of them,
Sure.
right? Um, my mother is, and it's a very recent lesson. My mother gave me self-assurance. Because I used to doubt myself a lot. So, and she gave it indirectly. Someone was asking, like, why don't you shout Kagisho that much like you used to? She was like, I don't know why, but for some odd reason,
Mm.
I don't shout at him or question him a lot because I know things will work out for him.
Oh.
Right? She just seems to have this peace and calm, and
Mm.
like about me doing what's right.
Mm.
And that for me is the confidence I needed. And it has significantly lowered the self-doubt I have. That's why, as much as I'm not at the point that I want, I'm more decisive. I get things done because
Yeah.
I have that peace. And then, as far as my father is concerned, it's about legacy. You know, it's like you can try and accumulate and whatever, like, but it's about, he always says, like, try and understand and pay attention to how you make people feel.
Mm.
You know, that's more important. And for me, that's key. So it's made me more compassionate. You know, so those are the two like lessons that I've gotten from them, and they
Powerful.
all came quite late in my life, like as an adult, and I'm glad that I had
Mm.
the opportunity to get that.
No, powerful. That is very powerful. Speaking of, I mean, is tell me about a time you learned the lesson the hard way.
Dropping out.
Okay. In my head, I was like, probably you're gonna say that, but maybe you had something else.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
That was the toughest lesson in my life. I
Mm.
went dark about it. And it took me 3 to 5 years to fully recover from it. In fact, I could say close to my entire 20s because I've blamed myself so much. Because for a long time, I looked at it as having wasted the money that my parents
Mm.
paid for me to go to school, although I had bounced back and I was working, you know? And in fact, I think it took both of them saying they're proud of me at different times in my life for me to get over it because I was like, they've forgiven me. Because I was even afraid to ask. But that haunted me for an extremely long time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Almost there. Do you have a quote you live by or always embrace, Inja?
Yeah, man, it's a very basic one, and sometimes it feels cheesy, but it is correct. It's Henry Ford, man. You know,
Which is what?
um, whether you think you can or not, you are right.
Yeah, right. It's all up in here, right?
It's all up in here, but I vouch for it. It's it's something I live by,
Mm.
and again, it has significantly reduced the self-doubt I had.
Okay. Next one. What do you believe to be true, even though you can't prove it?
There is a higher power.
Full stop. I won't ask further from there. Yeah. Well, you'll prove it once we go 6 feet under. We'll see. Yeah, one.
Yeah, yeah. I just believe in spirituality. It doesn't matter what form, you know,
Mm,
but there
mm,
is spirituality because spirituality is innate in anything that's alive. You look at animals, you look at every being has rituals, dog. Like
mm.
even elephants go and mourn their lost ones, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can't engineer that. We are an
And,
electric
and it
circuit.
can't just be random. Like it just. I always say that. Like even the Big Bang, it came from somewhere. Gaga, Gaga, guys. It's
Yeah,
just J.
yeah.
No.
So there's a divinity as to how it's framed, as to what you believe about it. That
Mm,
is the paradox. But reality is there is a higher power.
100.
We are all connected to something. There's a circuit.
Yeah. That we can't prove, but you just know deep down. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know it. That's why we have a beating heart.
yeah. My last question, and you briefly touched on it. I mean, when you're mentioning lessons from your dad in terms of legacy, I kind of probably have an answer in my head, but maybe I might be wrong. So, what do you want to be remembered for? What is going to be your legacy?
Democratizing opportunity.
Well, that's it.
Make the circle bigger, as big as possible.
And now we can cue JR songs right now.
Like, it's that simple, but like there's nothing more beautiful than sitting around a table and everyone has won.
Mm, mm. Yeah, man, look, let me not hold you up much more. I have more questions. I'd love to talk to you more, but I'm also respectful of your time. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. Like, I really enjoyed this. And when I say I really, it might seem like I had low expectations. No, like, it's exceeded my already high expectations. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. And I've always told you this. I mean, I'm your biggest supporter. I love, and I want to see where you guys can take this. And thank you for sharing all these nuggets as well. I'm hoping someone will actually find some pearls of wisdom, from this interview in terms of building an app in the education space. And if you're comfortable, I want to drop your details if they want to reach out to you as well, because you have obviously a lot of knowledge to share in the edutech space, and you're very passionate. But yeah, from the bottom of my heart, my brother, thank you for doing this.
Thanks, my friend. And
yeah.
Thank you for bringing me here. I'm a big fan of. I bumped into you and I enjoyed it.